All right. Let's just wait for a moment here, get ourselves ready, get ourselves started up. Good times here today. Good times. Weather's starting to change. Seasons are starting to change. We're getting some more consistent sun. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, hey, listen, we're going to be continuing with our series on selling, especially selling to homeowners as a tradesperson. Okay. It's important that we follow a system. There's a 7-step sales system. You got to follow it, or you're going to be doing what we call stepping on your sale. That's a bad thing. If you want to learn more about this, go back and check the previous episodes that I've recorded because there are 7 steps. Most people, they start at the wrong place. They think that presenting, when you're in front of the client, is step number 1, and it's actually step number 4. And that's why people like you and I, people that study sales, especially professional sales, especially when you want to build your construction business, dealing with the best clients who are going to pay the most, who are going to give you the least hassle, and who have bigger jobs. They expect a certain type of process for you to follow. And when you follow that process, it makes it easy for them to buy from you, right? To do business with you. So follow these 7 steps and you'll start crushing it. You'll be the biggest construction company in your area before you know it, just by following this system. It's super simple. People don't know it, even though the information's out there. I don't know why they don't know it. They don't follow it. We've been talking about this for years, not just me, but other professionals in the sales industry as well. So I'm glad you're checking in. Hey, remember, this is sponsored by Home Energy. Well, they're called HES, HESPV. It's a solar panel distribution company. This series has been sponsored specifically for their dealers. And I want to say thank you to them for sponsoring this entire series and being a big supporter of the Profit Tool Belt show, because they recognize they've got to bring professional information to the dealers out there, whether they're in roofing and solar, electrical, but also all the other trades out there that deal with homeowners regardless of how we do it. If you do bathroom renos, if you do painting and decorating, if you do roofing, if you do concrete forms or framing or painting, whatever it is, all of us need to follow the same system so that we can get the best deals and we can have great lives and raise our families right. Okay. Hey, let's get into this right now. So our sales training is always focused on one thing, and that is talking to the very best clients, so the affluent buyer. And that just means somebody who can afford to buy your services, right? They're not going to give you a headache. They're not going to give you a hassle. When they say they're going to pay you, they're going to pay you, which is good. We want to have that. So we're aimed at that specific kind of buyer. To learn more about this, like I said, go back and listen to the first couple of episodes so you get a sense of this, because you're coming in right now at step number 6, which is objection handling. Great place to come in, but you're going to want to go back to the top and then listen to the rest of them. It's all here on Facebook, and it's also published as a podcast on the Profit Tool Belt podcast. Okay, let's get into this. The goal of objection handling is actually to start getting the answer no. Can you imagine that? I mean, so many people are afraid of hearing no in a sales conversation. And here I am saying you actually want to get some no answers. You want to get some no's. Absolutely. And I'll tell you why that's important. Because it's only when the customer starts asking you tough questions that the sale is really happening. Everything up to that was just a visit. Once they start asking you, what about this and what about that? And how do I know this is going to happen? And what about this? Those are situations in their mind that are very, very important. And as respectful professional business people, like we are, we want to understand what those concerns are so that we can tell them how we would solve those situations. It's a what if situation game that we're playing. And you've got to go through that stage so they understand what that situation, so what your answer is, and they can get through it. Now, what's funny here is the objection handling follows the same 4 ingredients that you heard about in the qualifying stage. That's why I want you to go back and listen to the other ones, right? So their objections are always going to come down to the same thing you were asking questions about. Funny how that works. They're going to have objections. They're going to have questions, right? You've asked them to do the deal. They got a couple of questions they want to ask you before they say yes. And those questions fall in the areas of budget, around money, need. Do we need this? Do we need this now? Do we need this later? Why do we need your solution to this problem I've got? Timing. Why is it now that's important? Why shouldn't I wait? Why shouldn't we have done this sooner? Why don't we wait till next year when the weather's good, when the weather's bad, whatever people say? And then the other one is trust. How can I trust you? I've heard stories. Other people have said, aren't you that guy who parked on somebody's lawn on the other street? All of these things come up. There's a trust that has to be built, especially in times like this. People are looking for trust more than ever. And so you have to make sure that you understand how to answer those 4 questions that they have: budget, money, need, why do I need this, timing, why now, and trust, why you, why me, why this, why here. All of those things. I want to hear those in the objection handling. I'll tell you this, I've learned this myself the hard way over the years. If I'm not getting objections back from the person that I'm doing my sales presentation to, I know I'm not going to get that deal. I mean, very rarely, if all, will somebody just follow through, yep, and then just say, yeah, let's go ahead. That doesn't happen. That's usually when the sale goes sideways. I actually want objections. And so one of the most important things I'm going to ask you here is once you've asked somebody for the deal, remember that's the step just before this, we're closing, we're saying, hey, let's do business together. They say, well, hold on a second. What about where you're going to leave your equipment? Are you going to make my yard a mess? Those are trust questions, right? And those might be need questions. Like, do I need you here wrecking my yard and my lawn and everything like that, right? What about this? What about that? So that's a great place for us to be. We want to answer those questions. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down the worst objections you've ever gotten. So think back to a time that you've asked somebody to do business together. You found out everything they need. You realize you can do it. This is the solar panel installation we need. This is the roof that we need. Maybe we're just replacing caps on the roof, or we're redoing all the shingles, or maybe their fascia is rotten and you got to change that. Maybe it's a gutter job. I don't know what it is. It's your job, right? But you look at it and say, okay, well, I can do it for this, this, and that. Here's the presentation. Here's the proposal. Let's get started. And they go, well, I'm not sure. What about X and then Y and then Z? You say, those are great questions. Let me answer them for you. And then you want to make sure that you're answering the question they really mean. So you repeat it back. So I understand we're here to look at your gutters. Let me ask you this. Is the only concern you have about the gutters the color that I'm going to be able to match with the gutters you have right now? Or whatever they say. And they say, yeah. Now don't just jump to the answer. Say, so if I answer that question about the gutters, that's the only question you have about getting started? I mean, it's really just about the color? And they'll say, well, I have some other things. Okay, great. What are those other things that you want to talk about? Well, the price seems a little high. Okay, so we've got the color of the gutters that you want me to fix, and you've got the price of the job. What is it about the price that isn't sitting well with you? Did you want it to be more? And they'll laugh. No, we didn't want it to be more. I can make the price anything you want. Of course, I'll only do it within quality range. I mean, we only do quality work. But tell me what your thoughts were on the price. And they'll say, well, the deposit or the timing or the amount or something like that. Great. Now we've got a real conversation. So just deal with the questions. What I want you to do is have those tough questions that you've had in the past already written down on a piece of paper. Keep that piece of paper and think about the kinds of questions people ask you. Think about what your answer would be when it comes up, because you've given the proper answer in the past. I want you to keep using the proper answer in the future. Very simple system, okay? Please remember that it's a conversation. They're not arguing with you about your technical skill or ability. They do not know more about you than solar panel installation, about roofing, about gutters, about slab jacking, about basement mold remediation. They don't know more than you, but they're scared. Right? Remember, trust, budget, need, timing, and trust. They don't know who to trust. They're worried that other contractors are going to do something, that they're going to get caught, they're going to get scammed. You're not that person. And so you have to let them ask the questions and really let them, we call it a let-off valve, a steam valve. Those of you in plumbing and mechanical contracting will recognize that, right? There's all this steam built up inside them, and they want to say what they're already nervous about, what they're already frustrated about before you even get the deal. So let them do that. Give them that let-off valve. When they say, well, we think you're too expensive, don't take it personally. Say, okay, well, I can understand how you might feel that way. You've got a big and beautiful house, and I'll bet you a lot of people show up and give you prices that seem kind of crazy, right? And they'll say, yeah, you wouldn't believe it. We had a landscaper come in here, and he wanted to charge us this much money for this much work, and we just couldn't believe it. And then you say to them, well, what did you think that landscaper should have charged? And they'll say something just maybe a little bit different. Let them talk about it. Have that conversation, then bring it back to what you're doing, right? Let's say it's painting. Let's say it's roofing. Let's say roofing for now. Well, what did you expect the roof on your house to come in at? Did you have a budget in mind? Or better yet, did you have a line of credit you were going to use and it has to fit inside a certain number? And they'll say, no, that's not it. What we're really worried about is the price of the shingles that we're going to use. We really want premium shingles, and we were worried that it was going to take longer to install them. why is your price, almost a third more than the last guy? You say, I get it now. So you're wondering why my price is different than the last guy, but you're really worried about the quality of the work and the products, right? And they'll say, yeah. Now you've got a conversation, and you can enter into that conversation and say, well, listen, everything we do is up to government standards in the county, in the province, in the state, whatever it is, in the province, right? Everything, the materials that we're going to be using are the premium products, and we get them from a premium supplier. We don't get them in the gray market. I'm sure you've heard of the gray market before. It's where shingles and roofing supplies go to die. We don't know where they've come from. We don't know how long they've been sitting in the sun. You don't know how they're going to be applied. It sounds like that's your real concern here. And they'll go, yeah. Say, okay, so we don't do that. We only get the product when we get the job because we don't want the shingles to be stored improperly before we apply them. It's really important to my guys that they're applying clean product on a clean roof. And that's why we've done X, Y, and Z. So now you can explain to them, but you got to let them bleed off that valve where they were really worried that because they have a beautiful home, every contractor who's shown up has tried to gouge them on price. They think they've got a 10,000 square foot home with a 100,000 square foot lot, 2 sections, and a barn in the like. It's huge, and of course it's going to cost more just because of the labor to show up and do the work. But in their mind, everybody's out to get them, right? So you've got to let them have that let off valve. Anyhow, thank you so much for checking in. Make sure you check in one more time because we have one final closing here, and it's about the follow-up. The follow-up's really important because if you didn't get the deal throughout this whole process, how are you going to loop back and keep that deal alive? Thank you so much for checking in. Thanks to HES for sponsoring this series. I hope you're well. If you have any questions at all, leave your comments in the notes below. What did you like about this step? What kind of objections do you get that really just put the brakes on everything for you? What else can I talk about? Leave a comment in the notes below. Thanks for checking in, and we'll talk to you soon.